right, good Tuesday morning. Welcome to KSAT News Now. We are streaming and podcasting from the KSAT 12 newsroom. And Priscilla, it's already been a very busy morning in the weather department.
Yeah, definitely. The roads are, having some problems out there. We had a lot of our reporters going out and checking out some of those trouble spots. And of course, we're going to be talking with Justin Horn right now. What are we looking at, Justin? We're just going to get right to it.
Yeah, let's just get, because we know that Justin's been here throughout the morning, just obviously following all the conditions that we're dealing with right now. People obviously very concerned how things are going to look over the next day or so.
Understandably, and I know there's a lot of worry in the roads and that sort of thing. And let me put your mind at ease some. I think here in San Antonio, most of San Antonio, roads are going to be just fine. Where we've had issues is along Loop 1604 on the north side. And historically, we've watched these systems, the same kind of system setup, feels like almost every year. And you get to that elevation right where 1604 is, you start to see more elevation on the north side of San Antonio. And that's when you start to get into some of the ice. So if you're downtown San Antonio, you live in South San Antonio, west side even, probably just fine. Roads are going to be just fine. If you live on the north side, let's avoid 1604, at least the flyovers, because that's where things can get kind of icy. And I think temperatures come up a little bit this afternoon here in town. Hill country, it's a different story. Things are much worse up there, and this is case in point. This was sent in by our photographer, William Caldera. This is out of Bernie. It says San Antonio down there, but they're in Bernie. Him and meteorologist Sarah Spivey. And you can see the ice that is accumulated on some of these branches and trees. This is only going to get thicker, okay, because temperatures stay below freezing there in places like Bernie, Kerrville. And it's light right now. We've got light drizzle. But tonight, things get heavier. We get heavier precipitation. Things get worse up there. So it's all dependent on where you live on how this is all going to play out. But one thing is for sure, we're still watching some light, drizzly stuff work its way through. This is the live radar. Notice there's not a lot of coverage, okay? But there is drizzle still there. You just don't see it on the radar. Anywhere you see the pink color, that is light freezing rain. And that is working its way up towards the Austin area, which, by the way, Austin is an absolute mess. If you have plans or family members traveling to Austin, don't do it. It is in bad shape. Same story, Dallas, Fort Worth. There is ice everywhere. And we're kind of on the tail end of things down here, but we've seen the rain kind of diminish a little bit. So we may get a break. It's still going to be cold and windy, but we're going to get the heavier precipitation tonight. And I think this is what we have to focus on. What are the impacts where you live? If you're watching us from Kerrville, Fredericksburg, Sisterdale, I'd even say as far south as Bernie, major impacts. We're talking ice accumulation up to 3/4 of an inch. That may not sound like a lot, but it is. That starts to cause problems on things like trees. The branches start to sag. They can break off, take out power lines. We could be talking about power outages tomorrow. This will be something that we're watching very closely. Meantime, a little bit further south, and this is a narrow corridor, but we'll have some moderate impacts in places like Canyon Lake, Boulevardy, Fair Oaks, Ranch Bandera. Icy, elevated surfaces, some surface roads may start to become icy, and we'll have travel troubles for sure, and then maybe some isolated power outages. Now, San Antonio, we talked about this. It's minor impacts for the most part on the north side. Helotes, the Rim, Stone Oak, Garden Ridge, down to Selma. I'd say maybe as far south as 410. This is where we could have some patchy ice on the bridges and overpasses, and we've seen it. We had nearly a 10-car pileup, I believe, on 1604 on the north side, right in this area here. And then the flyover at 281, 1604, we had a crash earlier. So just to give you some perspective. Now, if you're south of that, again, probably all liquid. We could actually pick up some good rain tonight, believe it or not. It's just going to be a very cold rain. Here's the situation at the airport, and look at that. Nice little icicle. As a plane lands, man, that's perfect timing. Love that. Okay, but the icicle, keep in mind, this is elevated. This camera is elevated. So that's probably why it's developing a little bit of ice. We're just above freezing at the airport. 33, dew point is at 31, north and northeasterly winds at about 10, but the wind chill is in 20s right now. And it's just, we're just reporting cloudy skies. As we look at the big picture here, you can see the wintry weather that stretches from San Angelo to Dallas, down to San Antonio. And it's a large area. So again, as you go north of town, any of these areas, you're going to run into some really treacherous travel. And we're still waiting on the main energy to come in. It's still back out over California. So we got to get this through here before we're all done with this, this particular storm. So let's look at the forecast. Noontime today, again, a lot of this is starting to move out. By the afternoon, not much there. It's pretty quiet. But then watch what happens overnight into tomorrow morning. We start to see more developing. This is 10 o'clock. little bit of freezing drizzle redevelops, and then the radar becomes more busy. By midnight, we're starting to see some of those heavier showers move in. That transitions to heavier freezing rain in the hill country, and then it really takes off by tomorrow morning. 5 a.m. Freezing rain across the hill country, almost a sure thing. The question will be, how far south does that freezing line come? And again, probably it's right along 1604 there on the north side. And north of that, you're going to get some pretty icy conditions. Same story at 8 o'clock. So schools, school districts will be watching this very closely. I'm not going to say whether or not schools are going to cancel. Obviously, they did this morning. Could be a possibility tomorrow morning. That'll be up to the school districts to decide, depending on where they are. Midday tomorrow, same story, more ice across the hill country, and this is where you're starting to get some pretty significant accumulations by the afternoon, and then things will finally start to calm down by Wednesday afternoon. We aren't completely done yet, as we'll still see a few showers through Thursday morning, but the precipitation starts to let up some. So the KSAT 12-hour forecast today, 70% chance of rain. Temperatures hover right there around 33, 34. They just don't move. 70% chance rain into this evening, and then we'll bring it up to an 80%. But that 70% chance mainly just light drizzle and mist. It's not necessarily heavy rain. That doesn't occur until tonight. And we'll watch temperatures very closely here in San Antonio. If you're already sick of the wintry weather, don't worry, it goes away. By Thursday afternoon, sun pops back out, 59 on Friday, and then we're back in the 60s by the weekend, mostly sunny skies. So that's kind of the situation as it is playing out right now. I will tell you that freezing line can wobble a little bit. So a lot of it is just, staying tuned to the KSAT Weather App's one of the best places. I know I'm a little bit biased, but we update that often with the forecast. The meteorologists here at KSAT, we update it as often as we can. So it's a good place to stay up to date. But I know, people get nervous about driving. I totally get it. And so there's a few spots where gotta be seen.
All right, yeah, and Justin, thank you very much for that. As people heading out, especially into the hill country, north, just be cautious if you're heading out. Make sure to download that KSAT Weather Authority app for the very latest updates there. And now we're taking a look at TransGuide traffic cameras. Another person who was very busy this morning, Stephen Cavazos, was following all the latest. And here's kind of a live look at things right now, Priscilla.
Yeah, 37 at Jones, everything looks clear there. 37 at Hackberry. We're not seeing too much traffic in the downtown area, nor anywhere else. As you can see, the streets are pretty empty right now, so people are doing a good job of kind of just staying put if they're able to. But there were some trouble spots earlier. So TxDOT crews were busy this morning on the northeast side where a major crash closed part of the highway. This was at Loop 1604 westbound, the exit ramp at Lookout Road, and we're told it involved several vehicles, maybe even up to 10 cars, likely all caused because of weather. Yeah, so this was a pretty big scene from earlier this morning. It took crews more than 2 hours to clear this. Sarah Costa and our photojournalist Robert Samaron were out there this morning, but the latest report we got is that this ramp has reopened, happened a short time ago, a little bit after 10 o'clock, so police did not say if anyone was injured, but you could just see sort of the major mess here. Still not sure if it did involve 10 cars. That's initially kind of what was the report. I know when Sarah was out there during her live shot at 9 o'clock, there were at least 4 cars still there. You could see a lot of those cars turn the opposite direction, which is something you see often during severe weather and then, of course, this happened, during that early morning commute. People were headed to work. So the streets are empty right now, but we'll see, what the roads are like a little bit later when people start heading home from work. And then over in Bernie, there was a crash on an overpass that sent one person to the hospital. All right, so this happened on I-10 and Christus Parkway, and we know an officer was involved in this crash, but is listed right now in stable condition. No exact cause here, but again, this is during this type of weather, so it's kind of normal, as Justin was mentioning, for a lot of bridges and overpasses to become very slick. So that likely could be the case here. And Sarah Spivey and meteorologist Billy Caldera out there in Bernie for us this morning. Yes, and then I did want to mention, so Justin talked about how this is obviously affecting multiple counties here in Texas. So Governor Greg Abbott is actually getting ready to provide an update on how the state is going to respond to this. That should be happening, momentarily, and you can watch that also on KSAT.com. We're going to be carrying that live whenever it begins. Yeah, so if you are signed up for our app, for our push alerts, you could get that also on our app right there. And we know that a lot of people were trying to get information on schools
and college campuses, because if you should know by now,
Yeah.
hopefully, that they are closed for the day, but there of course are already some school districts, a lot of in the outlying areas, that have announced closures for tomorrow.
Yes, so if you just take your phone out and scan the QR code that's on your screen right now, that will take you to our website where you can, where you can actually, keep track of which closures are already in effect, and then if there are any upcoming closures, they'll be listed there as well.
Yeah, and as you just saw right there from those TransGuide traffic cameras, I mean, traffic was not much of an issue for me coming in because, when school was closed, I was like, all right, well, here we go. It's going to be, with the exception of the weather, I knew traffic wasn't going to be too bad. But again, all major Bexar County schools closed earlier today. That included Northside, of course, SAISD, Bernie ISD, and then even some universities like Texas State, my alma mater there, of course, San Marcos going up to Austin. That's been an area that's been hit pretty hard, but Trinity, UTSA, and Incarnate Word also canceling classes and also moving a lot of them to online.
Yeah, so again, you can scan that QR code, you can keep track of that for yourself. And then moving along, there are also some city and county services that are also going to be closed. So this would include Bexar County offices, Bexar County courts and jury duty, all closed today, Centro Med Clinics, JBSA, and Workforce Solutions Alamo Career Centers.
And of course, this is all just kind of a domino effect. You know what I mean? You think about all the school closures, and then obviously a lot of people, parents like yourself, have to think about, oh no, well now we have to, keep the kiddos at home, and so we need to figure out maybe some sort of like care for them throughout the day. So then a lot of these sort of offices kind of take note of that and start closing things down as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too is to kind of just keep people from traveling, from being on the roads.
There you go.
To just to avoid any issues that would happen on the road.
Yeah. It's better to just be safe than sorry headed out there if you plan to do that later on today. All right, so moving on to cancellations and flights, because this is obviously something that we see a lot when it comes to the cold weather. And that is the case this morning. A lot of flights here being disrupted in different parts of the state, including right here at San Antonio International Airport.
Yeah, so taking a look at those cancellations right now, most of the ice and snow is over the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So RJ actually has a map up right now that we can kind of see where those planes are hitting those patches of ice and snow.
Yeah, so as we saw from the radar map and just everything that we've been seeing from our weather department, you can see there's just basically this line of ice all the way from the DFW area down a little bit north of San Antonio. So now this ice has kind of been moved up a little bit more. So I'll kind of zoom in just a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see this at home. So we're looking at the DFW area, which I believe is right there. So I'll pull out, let's see, we have, let's see. We hit an ad. Okay, never mind. All right, we're good there. Okay, these ads always kind of pop up there. All right, so here we go. Let's see if we could update this. Let's knock this out. Maybe kind of update this map as it is updating at the very moment.
While you're trying to get back to that, I am looking at FlightAware, and it looks like right now there are about 22 total delays at San Antonio International, and there have been 23 cancellations today there as well. So Tiffany Wedethus is there right now. She's going to be trying to talk to people about this, and she will have that coming up today on the news at noon.
Yeah, okay, so I think I got us back on track here. So again, the Dallas-Fort Worth area is all this area right here. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that, and you can see that there are just ice all over the roads there. If you've seen anything there from the North Texas area, you see that they have snow, they have a sheet of ice basically all over the entire Metroplex there. That has kind of trickled down here to this area, which is the Austin area is right there. So Austin being affected also, right, Priscilla? They have a lot of cancellations or delays as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people usually will drive from here to Austin to catch their flights
I do
there.
it all the time.
So yeah, I'm imagining people are obviously not even making that trip right now, where they could be stuck there as well.
Yeah, I actually do that all the time. All right, and San Antonio is right here. So right now, according to FlightAware, we do see these planes kind of moving in and around the this entire line, basically up and down I-35, so stretching all the way from San Antonio to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we also want to take a look real quick as I close this out. All right, so we also want to take a look real quick at some of the flight statuses, and I'll go ahead and just update that here. because this is the latest updates from San Antonio International Airport, and you can see that a lot of flights that are specifically from the Dallas area, Love Field, specifically having to do with Southwest. We know that that's kind of their hub there, Love Field, Southwest. That has been canceled. Flights coming in and out from Las Vegas also canceled there. So these are departures. So there are some cancellations here at San Antonio International Airport that have to go out to several areas there. Denver's canceled. Frontier Airlines there having a little bit of issues this morning, but other things looking pretty good. Pretty good on time. Guadalajara, if you're headed out there, that one has been canceled. That was a 12 o'clock flight. And I think we're going to, let's show you the arrivals, because that's obviously a pretty big deal for people that may be waiting on family members or other, maybe business associates to come in. Denver, that has been canceled. A couple of these flights have been diverted now. And a lot of times this is also a trickle-down effect, because American, their hub is operating out of DFW Airport, and Southwest is operating out of Love Field. So if all those flights have been canceled, obviously it is a domino effect throughout the rest of the country. It trickles down to the rest of our airports. So not necessarily any major problems here at San Antonio International for our flights to either get out or come in. But when we talk about the DFW area where American and Southwest operate, that's kind of sort of the big deal. So yeah, and that's my TED Talk.
Thanks for coming to RJ's TED Talk.
Yeah, as we walk back into the desk here, thank you very much, Priscilla, for jumping in there
RJ
when we were
Van
having
White
some
with her.
telestrator issues. I hate pop-ups.
I know. Yeah. Luckily, it wasn't a bad one. You did a
Okay,
fine job.
thank you.
RJ.
Yes, Priscilla came in there pretty clutch when I was dealing with an Expedia ad.
Well, I do want to say, if you're watching and you happen to be in some of those outer counties, if you have any interesting photos, you can always share them with us on KSAT Connect. So we already had people send some of those in already.
Yeah, so the one we saw earlier that Justin showed us, that was from our photojournalist Billy Caldera out there, who's awesome photographer, by the way. He takes some great photos. You could do this as well. So we've been talking about this. There is light ice accumulation on the roads and over some certain areas. So go ahead and take your pictures. We also want to see pictures maybe of your pup snuggled up.
What you're doing to stay warm. I know
Yeah.
Producer Robert told me that it is National Hot Chocolate Day, apparently.
Oh, nice.
So,
good timing.
If you're keeping warm by the fireplace or having a cup of hot cocoa with your family and your kids, because they're probably home too, go ahead and send those pictures to us. Again, that's KSAT Connect. And one thing about the ice accumulation on the trees that we were just seeing is sometimes it hasn't happened yet, but if it gets to be too problematic, that's when CPS Energy starts trying to come in and keep that under control.
Yeah.
So, what we saw here was very light.
Right,
but,
right, yeah.
As we go into the night, we'll see if that can get any worse.
Yeah, it definitely could build up on like power lines and things of that nature on tree limbs. So that's something that obviously these utilities are always kind of keeping an eye out for. But yeah, if you could send in those pictures, make sure you do it safely. Send them into KSAT 12, KSAT Connect, and we may show it on one of our newscasts or one of our forecasts, one of our weather appcasts, whatever it may be. So we always appreciate people taking time to share those photos with us. I always like seeing the dogs like snuggled up. That's
I know. I'm like, I want to be in front of that fireplace too.
yeah, they usually have a nice little like
That
thick
gave
sweater.
me Christmas vibes,
Yeah.
even though it's January.
Oh,
I was like,
Lord.
take me back to Christmas. But do you have any plans to keep warm today? What are you going to be doing?
So I'm actually going out to the airport in just a little bit. So I do have a pretty big, the biggest like puffy jacket that I have when I went to New York a few years ago. It's the one I bought because I was there for December, and it actually it serves me pretty well. So that's the best way to keep warm. It's like a giant pillow, like around. Yeah,
Well,
I look like a marshmallow.
Well, I hope it'll keep you warm while you're there.
How about you?
I mean, I'm going to be
hot
in
chocolate
here.
day?
I'm going to
I
be in
know.
here
Yeah.
warm, and maybe I will order some hot chocolate. Probably coffee.
There you
instead.
go. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for hanging out with us on KSAT News Now. Again, follow the latest weather updates with our KSAT Weather Authority app. We're going to do a little wave here. Appreciate you guys being with us. Stay safe.